I'm Andrew. I'm a freelance commercial artist. I also design and fabricate in wood, metal, and recycled materials. Just do this here. Um, if you feel like you have questions or whatever, interrupt me as I'm going and ask anything you like as I go. But basically, to this. Guys, I think I found a kind of Trojan horse that can deliver our message about climate and sustainability and neatly disguised as a really fun experience. Um, we all know that people are pretty numb about hearing about global warming and living sustainably and sea level rise and habitat loss. Well, here's how I stumbled into a sort of communication breakthrough. Yeah, so about 5 years ago, I was not in a good place, spinning and anxious and, pretty worried. You remember the wildfires and you remember COVID and you remember Trump's first term. Yeah, that kind of shook my faith in a lot of things. And so like many, my climate anxiety spiked and I began to look for solutions. And therapy helped. But as you know, action is the antidote to anxiety. That's mostly why you guys are here because you care. And joining groups like the Solar Rights Alliance and making signs and shouting at rallies helped more. Then we moved actually from the Bay Area, from Campbell to Newton, Massachusetts, just outside Boston, where I really began channeling my skill set into the cause of slowing climate collapse. And yeah, you notice I did say collapse. Personally, for me, accepting that we're simply not going to be able to stop this freight train, but that it's still worth fighting for, to slow it down, to buy some time, it actually helped me kind of focus. Like a while back, somebody pointed out that our work is kind of like hospice care for humanity, that our job now is to make things as good as we can for as long as we can. And, I felt that and I stopped spinning and I found a new focus, like a new drive. I don't know if anybody here can relate, if you know what I mean. Anyways, I worked with Green Newton and other regional groups on projects where they needed some creative solutions to help spread the message about living sustainably. So here's a little lending library. I can't put a cursor on the screen, but there's a lending library that I built and a kiosk, another example. It's called Tic Tac Go Sustainable. Um, and the blocks, they spin and they have sustainable living tips around the outside. And then in the middle, it's just a simple tic-tac-toe game that kids can play. And it also works as a bench. And it also has little kinetic wind sculptures that spin on the top. And that's still hopefully out there doing good things. So my background in illustration and in teaching and in design, construction, and painting of theater sets helped bring these projects together pretty quickly. These are a couple miniature models that I built to help show efficiency upgrades that people can make to their homes. Um, all the upgrades are in bright green, and there's even little lights inside. I don't know if you can see on the second floor up there. They're illuminated. And that was when a local high school climate club asked me if I could think of a game or activity for their upcoming event. So brainstorming, my kids' Montessori school parties back when we lived in Europe. Yeah, okay. So the old wooden Dutch games that the head of school would set up at the parties, like that, but maybe with a climate theme, and I could make them from reclaimed wood and renewable energy. Yeah, I got it. So I came up with this. This is a game where you guide the Earth up either an easy, medium, or a hard path to a bright future up there at the top right. And you're avoiding like common pitfalls that we face every day, trying to lead a sustainable lifestyle. So you've got fossil fuel dependence, overconsumption, you're avoiding fear, you're avoiding climate denial, deforestation, that sort of thing. Well, when I saw how well it worked and that it was such an effective teaching tool, I was like, holy, holy smokes. This is a light bulb moment. And I knew that I had to start finding and adapting more games about climate and fast. And so one game grew into 10 games, and they became the Climate Carnival, which I eventually sold to Mass Energize in Massachusetts. They're a nonprofit umbrella organization. This is their website. And they help smaller nonprofits in with their campaigns and communication. So they're managing those games. And it feels good to know that the original games are still out making a difference on the East Coast today. In fact, I love peeking at their booking sheet now and then and seeing where the games are going next. After that, where my wife and I were going next was back here to Silicon Valley, where she found her next role at a local tech firm. And so, yeah, by the way, full disclosure, I could not do what I do if she didn't do what she does to allow me the luxury of time to develop and build and deploy these games. So, full credit there. And I still do work for my illustration and theater clients and keep that business rolling, but now it can be part-time. Anyways, I knew that as soon as we'd unpacked back here in San Jose and I had my shop set up, I would build version 2.0 of the Climate Carnival and start getting them out into the community. And honestly, I could not be happier with how it's going. It is hard to overstate the satisfaction of guiding someone, like a little kid or their parents or some teens or even seniors, and watching one of these games spark a real emotion, like a cheer or a smile or an awe. So close. Sorry, I thought I could make it through. Um, I don't push the climate theme of the games. I know that even just the parents watching their kids play are also reading and absorbing the vocabulary around climate at the very least. But more often than I ever expected, I get to overhear new conversations about pollution, eating less meat, clean energy, thrifting, and living sustainably. And I know 100% that they are working. Sorry. I honestly believe that these are the most meaningful things that I've ever created. And that's after 56 years of creating. And we have two kids, so obviously it's the third most meaningful thing that we've created. Um, I also love knowing that the games are drawing people to the tables and the tents of whichever organization that I'm partnering with. And they're, driving traffic and multiplying their climate impact too. So really, it's a win-win. And in writing this, I did a little bit of math. And so since I built them, the OG East Coast games will have done about 80 events by Christmas or around December. And these games here in the Bay Area will have done about 40. So that's like 120 events times 10 games. And even with just like conservatively 10 people playing each game, that would mean that these like simple wooden home built games have been played about, can you guess how many times? 12,000 times in less than 2 years. Like it just blows my mind, honestly. So, the future of the games, even if the pace kept steady as it is now, I would be one happy activist. I would do this full time if it was possible. Speaking of the future, I do have a file of ideas for exciting new games that I can't wait to build. Do you want to have a sneak peek? Some upcoming concepts? All right, here's one. It's an active mobility game and it's based on snakes and ladders where you race someone else across town to mom's house up there at the top right. And um, you can see there's two little characters at the bottom left, and you would work your way up the board. So bus lanes, biking, and transit would speed you up, and traffic and parking and construction would slow you down. I can't wait to make this one. We'll be building it really soon, hopefully. Here's another concept I like. It'd be really fun, I think, to have a maze where people stand on it. You could be rolling the earth around the maze, and the outside of the maze where the earth would start would be like the hot zone, and you're trying to get down the temperature by moving the world to the center, which would be the cool zone. Here's another one where you can catch a sun, and you're catching it with solar panels, catch some rays sort of idea. Pull a little shuttle thing back and forth, kind of like Plinko. Actually, I did build that one for a client, and a client called Revision Energy, um, and it worked out really well. I'd like to make another version, just more generic, maybe not branded. But before I can get making any of these new ideas, I have 7 orders for custom games, and actually I got an inquiry for 7 more today. So this is kind of exploding right now. Um, Here's another one where you could be pushing out maybe building blocks of the ecosystem until it collapses. Yeah, it's a little bit grim, but um, here's another one where the idea here, it's directly stolen from an excellent exhibit at the Exploratorium, where you angle a solar panel towards or away from the sun. And it's really cool. It directly affects the water coming out of that little jet. So it's the sun doing work. So at the museum, it's a water jet, but I thought it'd be cool to maybe have it drive like a motorized whirligig type thing, maybe some guys sawing a log or something. Um, Showing solar literally doing work. You have to kind of experience it, but it's really neat. I can't wait to build this one as well. So that's the thing. Guys, steal these ideas, use them any way you like. And you could find ways to like supercharge that little spinny wheel game next to the brochures you see on those tables. You can do sorting games, balance games, maze games, toss games, quiz games, puzzle games, because these games they drop people's guard and they bring out their inner kids. They become more trusting and more receptive and more open. And it sneaks, to go back to the metaphor, it sneaks our message in past the gates of suspicion and information overload, deep into people's conscience where it can do the most good. And if you want to see them in person and actually play and have some fun, um, you can follow the games on Instagram. They have their own page. Some youngster asked if I had a page for them. I was like, that's a great idea, so I'll do that. Um, so I post upcoming events, recent photos and videos. Or even better, if you want to be part of the fun, I will happily add you to my pool of helpers who give me a hand setting up and running and packing away the games at events all over the Bay Area. And I normally don't charge nonprofits, but some places will give me a donation to help pay my helpers. So it's often not just volunteer either. In fact, here are 4 events right around the corner. One coming up on Sunday at the Exploratorium. They've been a really fun partner. Um, and yeah, I'll give you my contact info if you're interested in helping out or being involved somehow. That's my story. Thanks for listening.